In this video, you'll learn how to find the slope of a graph, or also called the rate of change. Now, in order to be successful in this lesson, to find the slope or the rate of change from a graph, you need to be able to locate what we call two perfect corner points. Once you have two perfect corner points, you're going to count the change in the location of those points, or the change in the y-coordinate, sometimes known as the delta y, or the rise. Once you've counted one direction, up or down, then you'll count the other direction, left or right, known as the change in the x-coordinate, or the delta x, or the run. So let's just get right into it. Here's a picture of a graph, and we're going to find the slope. Now, in order to do that, we need to have what we call two perfect corner points. So I'm going to highlight them here in red. Here's one perfect corner point. And in blue, here's another perfect corner point. And when I say perfect corner point, I'm talking about these grid lines here. When these grid lines intersect at a corner, that creates a perfect corner point. If I'm traveling along this line, you'll notice all these other black dots, they don't always perfectly go through the corner of the blue grid marks. Some of them do, some of them don't. So what we're going to do is we're going to use just these highlighted red and blue points. And what we're going to do is we're going to count the rise, or the distance along the y-axis. So let's do that here from the red point, counting up towards the blue point. So in order to go up along the y-axis, I'm going to move one corner, two corners, three corners, four corners, or up 4. That means our rise is positive 4. Now we need to count along the x-axis, known as the run, or the delta y. So I would have to move 2 units to the right, so that's positive 2. So the slope of this line is 4 over 2. You could reduce this value to 2 over 1, or to just the number 2. The slope of this line is 2. That makes sense that it's a positive value because this line is certainly traveling uphill, or increasing from left to right. Let's take a look at another graph. Now you need to find two perfect corner points. So here's one at the top in red, and here's one down near the bottom in blue. So I'm going to count my rise, or my change along the y number line first. The delta y comes first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units down. So we're going to call that negative 5. That's my rise. Negative 5 because I'm counting downwards. Now we're going to count over along the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4 corner points, or positive 4. The slope of this line is negative 5/4, which makes sense since the line is going downhill or decreasing as we read from left to right. All right, let's count the rise and run from these 2 points. And it doesn't matter whether this one is your starting point or that one is your starting point. You'll get the same answer either way, and I'll show that to you here. So I'll use this first point as my red one, and I'll count up to the blue one. So this one has a delta y, right? The change along the y-axis, the rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Positive 7 is my delta y, or my rise. My run, or my delta x, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Positive 5 as well. So the slope from red to blue is 7/5. Now, if somebody had gone the other way and made this one red and that one blue, their slope would have been negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. And their delta x, or their run, would have been negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Now, although these fractions look different, 2 negatives can be reduced to a single positive. So 7/5 and 7/5. So it doesn't matter which way you count your boxes. Let's take a look at one more. I'm going to start up here at 3. I'm going to count down to this blue point there. My delta y, or my rise, is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. So -7 is my numerator, and +1, +2, +3, +4 is my denominator. This graph has a slope of -7/4, which makes sense because the line is decreasing or going downhill, so it should have a negative fraction. You'll notice on this graph, my red line doesn't have any circle points on it. So sometimes you have to draw those perfect corner points yourself. So I've got some blue dots over here, and I'm going to move along this red line until I see it go directly through the corner of these gray or black grid marks, right? You see these grid marks? I'm looking for perfect corners to those grid marks. So I'm going to continue traveling with my second point until I go directly through. Now this is not directly on the dot, on the corner there. So I'm going to keep going, keep going, keep going, not perfectly through the corner, and there it is. Those are two perfect corner points. And now I can count my slope, or my delta y and my delta x, also known as a rise and a run. So let's count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is my rise, and +1, 2, 3 is my run. All right, it's time for you to give it a try. So pause the video now and try answering these 4 graphs. Find the slope of each line. Okay, did you pause the video? Let's see how you did. Great job. Now let's review what you learned in this video. First, you can count upwards or downwards, right? Up or down from one corner point to another. That's known as finding your delta y or your rise. Second, you can count left or right from one point to another. That's called your delta x or your run. Once you find those two values, you put them together in this slope ratio. Don't forget to check the reasonableness of your answer. If your line is going uphill, the fraction should be positive, and if the line is going downhill, the fraction should be negative. And now you know how to find the slope from a graph.